Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to paint a waterfall sunrise or sunset. Not sure which one, but I'm going to show you start to finish how to do this one. I've got my husband Mark with me.
Hey there, buddy.
He's man in chat today, so if you've got questions while I'm painting, you can ask those and I'll try to answer. Let's get started. Alrighty, so I'm using a blank canvas today. I haven't done anything to it. I really probably could have put in like maybe a yellow, like an Indian yellow hue or a yellow oxide base or something like that on here if I thought about it ahead of time, but I didn't. So just thinking about it now, too late. Got a 9 by 12 inch canvas, and that's from Fredrix, a mixed media canvas there. I'm going to be using a large brush for the sky and kind of blocking in some color. So this is the 2-inch Aspen. And then I'm going to mostly use my blender brushes for the majority of the painting. And then I've also got a 6 bright Aspen for some of the rocks. I may even use my palette knife. We'll see how as we get going if we want to grab that and use that on some of the rocks. And I've got a Deerfoot Stippler for some of the clouds and a fan brush for some of the trees, and then an angle shader in case we need it for whatever. These are all the VelvetTouch and Select and Aspen brushes from Princeton. So thank you to them. They're our brush sponsor and our canvas sponsors, Fredrix. They're awesome to work with. You'll also want a piece of chalk or some sort of water-soluble pencil to do your drawing with. We're going to very, very vaguely draw in our waterfall here. Nothing too fancy. Let's go over colors. Got carbon black, burnt umber, burnt sienna, quinacridone burnt orange, Indian yellow hue, cadmium yellow light, cadmium orange, quinacridone magenta. Which one is that? Dioxazine Purple, Ultramarine Blue, Phthalo Blue Green shade, and Phthalo Turquois, or you could use like a Phthalo Green there instead of the turquoise. And then this is Unbleached Titanium, Titanium White, and Zinc White, and some glass glazing liquid. All right. Again, if you don't have all these exact colors, just use what you've got that's similar. It's fine. You're just going to want, mainly our colors today are going to be kind of some pink trees. This actual reference photo looks like it was taken in autumn, so some of the trees are turning orange and yellow. So I'm going to flip the switch on those and make them a little bit more spring-like and do them kind of some pinks in there, pinks and maybe some white in there, and kind of brighten up the water too. It's a little bit dark, so just kind of playing with the colors and making a nice bright sky. All right, so our composition is going to kind of split, and I don't tend to like to split my canvas in the middle, but we've got enough of this kind of arc going on in our trees. We've got kind of an arc there, and then our rocks are coming up and down and back up a little bit right here, kind of right in the middle. That's kind of more over to this side. Something like that. And then waterfall, and then our water down here. And that is kind of right on between the third and the quarter at the bottom of the canvas there. It's going to be our waterfalls. So our water is shorter than this distance by almost 1.5, about 1.5. So this is about 1.5 there. Let me see. I'm just kind of measuring out to see if I got my angles right. So this distance between here and here and here and here is about equal. So you can bring that up a little bit right there. And then again, our tree line is going to, and it's actually going to come down even lower than I have it here. So it's going to be kind of low right here. And then our sky is going to come in like that. Okay, so that's sort of our basic, very rough sketch. And let me grab my brush here. We'll just get going here. Hope everybody's doing well. We had a nice little spring break this week where we are at.
Yeah.
Schools were out, and we always planned a trip, even though our kids aren't in school anymore. Well, Spencer is still. He's in college, though. But, yeah, so we went and saw our middle son and his family, Courtney and Liam, grandson, and that was really fun. We had a great time, and my birthday always falls on spring break week too, so we always make sure to take a little mini vacation that week. So missed our Tuesday show, but we're back. There you go. We got 2 videos this weekend, one for our bonus video for our patrons for the $5 and up level. So we'll be painting a black horse tomorrow with some flowers in the field. It'll be fun.
If you say so.
All right. My paint is bubbling up there. Okay, so I got a little bit of water, got some white going on, and I'm going to grab my Ultramarine Blue just on the corner of the brush there and add that to this. So it's just a very pale blue. I'm going to start with that, kind of low on the horizon, and then add more blue as we move up in the sky. Oops, there we go. It's a little bit too much, I think. Very pale, so like maybe 1 part blue to 4 or 5 parts white here. And I'm going to go ahead and bring it all the way down to that water line because our trees are kind of sparse and we want to see the sky in between there. So what we see, or not our water line, but our rocks there. All right, so just going to sweep it across here. What were we saying, hon?
Yeah, 2 quick questions.
Okay.
First one is, of course I lost it. Is there a difference between an angle bright and an angle shader?
I would think probably angle bright might be shorter than the angle shader. I don't know for sure. Probably depends on the brand. I would look at them side by side to compare, if you can. Or sometimes on a website they'll say the size, in millimeters usually. But yeah, you can look that up.
Okay.
Okay, so there, I'm going to get a little bit more of the phthalo blue here. Woo! There's a lot of phthalo blue. Okay, so probably 2 parts ultramarine to 1 part phthalo blue. And some white to tone it down. I'm going to spray this canvas so that this paint doesn't dry on me. You can do that while your paints are first set down there. I wouldn't do it when they start to dry because otherwise they'll kind of lift. But while they're still a little bit wet and we're working on them, we can do that. Okay, so that's the color right there. So it's just got a touch of that phthalo blue in it to make it a little bit more mid-tone blue. The ultramarine blue has a lot of purple kind of leaning, so it'll look a little bit purple when you add white to it. And then the phthalo blue has a lot of green in it, so it'll look kind of greenish when you add it. So if you kind of mix the two together, it makes kind of a really nice color for your sky. And I'm going to do it a little bit darker in that upper corner here. Get a little bit of the darker color for over here. What was your second question there?
The second question was, is phthalo blue green shade similar to phthalo green?
They're both very, very similar. They're both kind of, I think, in the same kind of base family of colors. Kind of like the quinacridones, are all kind of somewhat similar. But they're definitely different. The phthalo blue is if you were going to pick one, I would either pick the phthalo turquoise or the phthalo blue. If you were, if you were just going to buy one, because the phthalo blue will mix the phthalo green, but not really vice versa. So, and same with the phthalo turquoise, you will have to have another blue to get a blue out of the phthalo turquoise. So if you want to have the more versatile colors, probably phthalo blue, because you can mix the turquoise and the phthalo greens from it. All right. And if you get any streaks, that's fine, because it'll kind of just look like part of the sky. So I'm going to go a little bit darker here, though. I'm looking at my photo and just kind of going to pull down some blue here, and then this whole area here is going to have a lot of clouds in it, a lot of those colorful clouds. So I just want kind of that sweeping feel here, and just a little bit lighter at the horizon line. That looks good. All right, so I'm going to get a little bit more water, and then I'm not going to worry about the color too much down here, but I'm just going to grab some purple, black, and burnt umber. Kind of use that to block in my rocks. And I still have some of this color, but it's all right. And I'm just going to kind of do really rough. I need to get most of that blue out of it though. I want this to be pretty dark. See how I'm not trying to clean it out in my water. I'm trying to kind of wipe it on a paper towel, and that way the paper towel gets the dirt and not the water. Okay, let's try that. Just try to pull out as much color as I can on that paper towel. And that keeps my water from getting too dirty too quickly.
Pro tip.
Still a lot of that blue in there. Okay. All right, let's try that again. There we go. Now we're talking. And just having kind of a combo of these colors is going to give it a little bit more interest than just doing plain black. I like to have a little bit of color in my blacks. Color just helps it from looking too stark. More interesting color. Okay. There we go. We kind of know these two little spots here that are dipped down are going to be our rocks. I'm going to bring this one up a little bit higher here. We're going to do lots of trees and stuff up in here, so none of this is going to be set in stone. Ha!
I'm so proud of you.
I just thought of that.
Kind of brings a tear to my eye.
That one was for Mark. Yes, Mark got me a Flower of the Month club for my birthday, so I'm really excited. I got my first set of flowers today, so I'll have lots of nice new flower combinations every month for us to paint. And the nice thing is that I didn't pick them out myself. It's kind of just you get what you get, you know. They pick them out. And so that means we won't have the same... I was telling Mark, we'll have a little bit more variety in color because I will just pick out what I like every time if I was given the choice. But it's like a green, a lime green, and a pale pink and red. So it's a very weird, nothing that I would have picked, but it's cool looking though. So we'll get some really interesting color combinations out of it, I think. All right, so I grabbed the turquoise, added it to my sky blue color. I'm going to use my blue that's in my sky in my water because your water usually will reflect the sky. Now, the sky is kind of backlit, so that's why this is so dark in our photograph. I'm going to play with that a little bit. I'm just going to kind of alter reality here and make it a little bit more color. I'll just spit on my canvas. A little bit more color intense right in here than it is in our like a little bit more saturated is the word I'm looking for. A little bit more saturated in my water here than is in our photograph. Just a little bit of that turquoise color. And I can add a little bit of blue to it too. And then I add right up against the rocks here. I'm just going to kind of smudge out that edge between the rocks and the water with some of that darker color, like it's a shadow on the water. Okay, so there we go. That's all I'm going to do right now in the water. But yeah, that looks good. Okay. Make sure you get it really, really dark in here where your rocks are going to go. And I think I'm going to have you take that and dry it, hun, because I'm not going to be able to really do anything much with it until it's completely dry.
Was not expecting that.
You could just rinse that out a little bit too. I'm going to wash my hands while I'm doing that. Ooh, that's cruddy. Look at that. Yuck. I'm going to spray everything down. I get a lot of comments about, people saying that their paints are drying faster than mine, that kind of thing. One of the things you can do is spray your canvas pretty often. I have a fine mist sprayer that I like better than the regular spray bottles. And I got mine just on Amazon. It's in my, down in the description, I have a list, and the Amazon shop, our Amazon shop link is down there. And then this is in one of the acrylic painting supplies things. It doesn't come this painted. I'm a little messy, I guess. But anyhow, the fine mist will kind of saturates it a little bit more softly, if that makes sense. Like it gets, instead of like a huge droplet that only hits like one part of your paint puddle, it kind of does this super fine mist over the entire thing. So I think it kind of gets down into the paint a little bit better. The paint kind of absorbs a little bit more of that moisture. And then also when I'm pulling my paint, if you can see it really clearly on here where the back side here is left kind of solid. I'm going to smush this down because it's going to dry out a little bit faster, but I'm going to pull my paint out from the front side here only, and I'm not going to dab in straight through the middle of it or get it on both sides until the very end, until it's like pretty much gone, and then of course I will, but that will help your paint last a little bit longer. Anytime you're dipping your paintbrush into your paint, it's introducing air into that, and that will dry out your paints faster. So if you leave that back edge of it just kind of solid and not touched, undisturbed, it kind of forms a little bit of a seal, like a film almost. It'll start to harden a little bit, and then but it protects the paint inside, so it's just like this little crust that happens, and you can still kind of scooch the paint out from inside and from the front wet side that you're working at, but it just protects the back side there from too much air getting in, and it won't dry out as fast. All right, so plus don't have a fan on your studio. That will dry it out real fast too. All right, so let's get our clouds going on. I think I'm going to use, I think I want to use this brush maybe. I want to get the biggest brush that will fit the size of what I want to do. So I think I'm going to go ahead and go with the 3/8 inch Willows blender. I think that'll do it for me. And I'm going to make I need more white. I'm going to, here's my white. There it is. All right. Gonna grab some white. And you always want to use white as your base whenever you're trying to cover up another color. When you want your color to be opaque, you just a little touch of white will really help it. Either white or black. If you're using a really dark color, black will work. But white in this case, we're doing a lighter color. Thank you, honey. Mark's my brush guy. Brush and hair dryer drying. All right, That looks pretty good. So just kind of a very, very soft pale yellow. I might use just a little bit of the Indian Yellow Hue to kind of warm it up a little bit. I grabbed the orange too there, but that's fine. Okay, so that's pretty. All right, so what I'm going to do is my trees are going to be all in this area, but of course my sky is behind it, so I always want to work from back to front so that anything is overlapping is going to be, overlapped after we do this part. So sky is showing up behind the trees, so we're going to do that first. And I'm just going to tap in and do these little tiny little clouds that are all peppering in here, and I'm seeing just a little bit of trees here. I'm going to go ahead and bring this down pretty close to the bottom and then smudge out the top edge. So kind of tap and then tap and smudge, and by smudging I'm just kind of very lightly kind of rubbing the top edge of that out so that it kind of smudges out just like it sounds. All right. And then up in here it's much more soft, so I'm going to wait until I have very little paint on. I still have a pretty good amount of paint on my brush here, so I'm going to just keep going with this tap and smudge thing until I run out of paint, and then I'm going to go over here and put in some of the more wispy clouds with that. And I think that that's one of the things that trips people up when they're painting clouds, is that they're just using too much paint. Clouds are going to be really soft, and sometimes they're kind of heavy and thick, but most of the time you're going to have these really soft wispy edges, and you can't get that if you're laying down a ton of paint. Now in the middle part of the cloud you can have thicker application of paint, but along the edges you want to be really soft and smudge out those edges, and that is what will help kind of keep it looking more realistic and soft. Just kind of soft little smudgy clouds. All right, so I have a little bit less paint in my brush. I still have a pretty good amount in here, so if I press down really hard I'd get some paint, but if I can kind of keep it soft here, just barely touching down, I can get kind of a nice thin application of paint and these soft wispy brush strokes. And I'm kind of just doing like little circles here to get the wispy, and that kind of also just kind of runs the paintbrush in different directions and gives it much more of a random feel, and my clouds don't look so forced. My general the general slant is going to be kind of this way, so I'm doing some of these lines of clouds in kind of this slanted direction here, and then they're kind of popping up here in a little bit more of a random pattern. But we're already kind of seeing it, right? We're already getting that feel, that sunlit cloud feel. So just kind of starting out with a little bit thicker application of paint where we want the thicker clouds to be, and then tapping out smaller and smaller clouds and smudging out those edges. Okay. Pretty good.
I say that we just turn this into like a dusk hill water scene and be done here in a few minutes.
It's just in silhouette and we're done.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's kind of nice outside. Just and done.
And done. Are we done yet? Are we done? That looks good.
Yeah.
I said I'm not going to ask Mark if it looks good, because he's just going to be like, "Yep, that looks great."
Well, we said we're going to change it up some, so it's pretty changed up.
All right. Note to self, don't ask Mark.
Come on in.
Guys, we're jumping up on Mark's lap. All right, so gonna get some of the orange now and do the same thing, but I'm gonna kind of tap into the clouds that I've already got and just add some of that and leave the yellow kind of towards the bottom of our sunlight's coming from this direction, I think. So we're gonna kind of tap in on the top of our clouds.
Can you demonstrate sunlight coming in again? Okay, perfect. Thanks.
It's a good thing I don't pay you to do this. That's all I'm saying. You get what you pay for. I apparently paid for mockery. So.
I mean, it helps us visualize what's going on when you do the hand puppets.
Okay.
Maybe I can ask Ben to kind of superimpose some hand puppets when you're doing that.
Post-production.
Yeah.
CGI.
Here, let me take off my sock. I'll do it right now.
No, it's okay. Okay, and then I'm going to get some pink. And I'm going to add my yellow to the pink. A little bit more white. It's pretty soft. Subtle. I might add a little bit of this orange to it as well. There we go. That's about the color I want. Wiping most of it off this time because this is going to be subtle, so I could even add a little glaze to make it more transparent. Okay, and now I'm going to just lightly dust this color into my sky and over my clouds. So, and if you cover up all your yellow, that's fine. We can always go back in and put my yellow in. And I'll probably end up doing that. But this is going to just help. And this is where I'm going to go kind of outside my boundaries. Smudge out all those edges really well. And this is where I definitely don't want too much paint on my brush so that I can get the nice soft smudgy edges. You see how you're still seeing that background through it, and that's what you want. You need to be able to see the background through it. You should be able to just barely see this. And you just have to take your time with clouds. I think that's what people just kind of rush it and they kind of try to get it done in one set. And you can see we've already done 3 layers, right? Well, 4 really if you count the sky in the background. So just takes time. You got to kind of take your time. We'll probably have at least 2 more layers before we're done. And just slowly build up these layer upon layer of color to get it looking the way we want it to look. I don't know how Bob Ross did it in like 2 seconds, but he was not working with acrylics, one thing. So acrylics don't, I don't know. Maybe I need to watch some of his old videos and see if I can adapt them, but he was doing a wet on wet technique, so his whole background, the whole painting was wet the whole time he was working. So he could go back in and blend things, several minutes after he was working, putting them down. So I tried doing it with acrylics when I was in college and was very frustrated by the whole thing. Of course, I didn't understand the properties of acrylics versus oil paints, and realizing I didn't realize that his paint hadn't dried. It was like, or that acrylics would dry so fast. So I had a lot of frustrating times trying to get watching his techniques and trying to get it to translate onto acrylic canvas. It just, with acrylics, Did not work. You can get the same look, just have to go about it a little bit different than he did. Kind of take your time and do layers instead of doing it all at once. Okay. Got that a little bit bright right there.
So are the paints
I'm
dry?
going back in with the white. Yeah, these are dry. I'm putting on very thin layers
Okay.
at a time, so that when I need to spray that, I'll moisten that up without saturating it too much or making it soggy. Just a nice thin layer of water on there. And I'm just wiping my brush off every time I load it, so that with this pink color, so that I don't have too much on here when I go back in and add this color in. And again, kind of trying to keep it on this side of the cloud, and the highlight side that's facing the light is more yellow, and then this side has got the orange and the pink on it. And what I'm probably going to do here is just kind of go back in and add my yellow. I did a little bit over there. Add the yellow to the bottom edge of all of these again, just to really brighten it back up, since it's kind of gotten, these are so little, and it's kind of gotten a little bit muddled with all these colors going on. And I probably could switch to a smaller brush for these smaller clouds, but I'm not going to, because I'm just not going to. Okay.
So kind of clarify thin layers.
Thin layers, yes.
Go.
Clarify what thin layers mean?
Yeah. Because you're not using any liquid paints, right? You're just using all heavy body.
Yeah, these are heavy body acrylics. Thin layers just mean I don't have, they're somewhat transparent, so I don't have a lot of paint on my brush when I'm doing this, so they're going on wispy. So if I had a thick layer, here's the difference between a thick layer and a thin layer. I'll show you on paper, it'll be easier to show you without messing up my canvas. Okay, this is from something before, don't worry about it. Thick layer, no transparency, completely thick. If I did my clouds, the only place that I would be doing my clouds would be the middle parts of my clouds. Thin layer is that. See the difference? You can see the background through it. It's not super solid looking. So that's the difference with our clouds. We want this thin layer, and we can build this up over and over again to get it thicker, but we're always kind of smudging out those outer edges so that we get this soft fuzz around the outer edges of our clouds. The middles can be, the middle parts can be a little bit solid, but the edges are always kind of smudged out just slightly so that it kind of blends in with our background. And then that way we don't have these really hard lines that don't look cloud-like. And you can also fudge it by blending in. If you get a hard line, say you get your cloud done and you're like, oh, I've got this cloud that, just looks really bad because it's got, it's the sky is all, really soft and smudgy all the way around it, but then I've got this little cloud in here that's just too thick. You can always take some of your background color, your sky color, back in and do the transparent smudgy, this over the top of that along the edges of it, and it'll smudge it out and make it a little bit softer. See now, like it blends in a little bit more, and then you can get back in with your cloud color and just softly smudge out your edges. So if you do your cloud too heavy, you still can fix it. It's just, and actually I like to do this anyways. I always like to kind of take a little bit of that blue and put it back in around my clouds. just to kind of soften up those edges. Even when you kind of smudge them out, sometimes they still do look a little bit harsh in places. So that's the difference there with the application that we're doing.
Perfect. And the word of the day is smudgy. Smudgy.
If we're playing the drinking game, we can take one drink now. And if one for everyone after that she says that. We played the drinking game with cutes for our bunny rabbit, and we got a lot of people drunk,
And
I
I think
think.
there's some people still recovering.
I think there were about 40. All right. We're kidding, by the way. Sorry.
Yeah.
If you're a child, please don't. All right, so mixed up a little bit more of that yellow that's a little bit more intense than that original color. So just a little bit more of these two yellows with my white. And I'm going to add that in. Yeah. And this is the softening layer. So this is what'll kind of make it look like cotton candy, you know, that kind of just soft flow. And if your colors are too different or too intense, if you've got a lot of colors that are not, like if you're going from yellow to purple, you know, in your clouds like that. So you just have to kind of make sure that you have these in-between colors that'll kind of buffer. And so this is kind of our buffering color between this bright pink and my yellow. Although the pink and yellow look good together, they're not going to create a weird color, but they are it is kind of intense, you know, having that, like say right here, we've got this really intense area of pink that kind of went on a little bit thick. So I'm just going to take this color and sort of smudge over that. Soften it up a little bit. And now it looks a little bit better.
Get it smudgy.
Get it, okay. Yep.
Somebody has said that their dog is named Smudgy.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, that's cute.
So I think we say it enough, we can get its attention, maybe get a bark or something.
Smudgy? Oh, if I thought about that, we should have named Fitzpickle something artsy, art-termed. I don't know what it would be, though. Smudgy, that's cute.
Well, it's pits right now.
Yeah. Yeah. At Christmas, it was pickles.
Yeah.
And now Liam calls them pits.
Yeah.
Pits. We took Fitzpickle on the road with us. Almost 6 hours on the road. And he did great.
Yeah.
I was very surprised. Yeah, the whole trip there. Yeah, the whole time we were there. We almost got kicked out of a park. Well, we kind of did get kicked out of a park with him. We went to a kids park, and it was like a brand new, really fancy kids park. There were 0 signs that said no dogs. 0, because we were looking. And so we're like, okay, this is weird. Well, we'll let him in then, you know, like, okay. You know, he was behaving really well, and he was getting lots of loves, and then we were packing up to leave, and I was letting him go do his business.
We were outside the park area.
Outside the park area. Right, out of the kids area, just
grass.
like right in front of our car. And he hadn't gone any, you know, the whole time we were in. We would, you know, make sure that he didn't have any accidents or anything. And anyhow, the park cops came up to us like, no dogs in the park. No dogs in this entire property area. And like, well, there's no signs anywhere. And like, I wasn't arguing with him. I was just like, oh, I'm sorry, you know, I didn't see any signs. And he's like, oh, well, there's signs over there and signs over there. And he was like pointing like way. A mile away here and a mile away there. You know, it's like, well, there's no signs like at the entrance where we went in, like, or anywhere around where we're sitting right now. So we definitely did not see your signs that are way over there.
So now I wonder how many people who were there and saw him in the park
are going to come back with their dogs.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Like, well, I guess dogs are allowed.
Yeah. No, he did great. It was good socialization for him. He hasn't been able to be around a lot of people. With our other dog, went to soccer games all the time, so he got to be around lots of kids and other people. And COVID hit, and we got fitzy, and we never took him anywhere, so he wasn't around anybody but our family mostly. So not really a lot of public, except for when we take him to Lowe's, which is always like a really intense, because he's always pulling at the leash, barking at the other dogs. All right, so just going back in here. Sorry, back to the actually what I'm doing here. People are like, who cares? I'm using this light yellow. I mixed up more of that originally light yellow too. So I have the light yellow and kind of medium yellow here. I've got my orangey yellow that had a little bit of the orange in it, and then the light pinks. So I've got kind of all these colors, and I'm just going to kind of go back and forth here and just make sure I've got some nice bright areas at the bottom of my clouds now. Just hit up all these bottom areas of my clouds and get some of the more opaque whites, or more opaque yellows, and just kind of go in there fairly thick with it right at the bottom, just on the inside of that cloud. So we've already kind of smudged out the edges, so I'm going kind of just on the inside so that it's kind of the thicker part of the cloud, so I'm not getting like a really hard edge. And all this is going to be trees down here, but I'm, again, just going ahead and putting these in anyways, because I don't know where my trees are going to cover and where they're, going to be exposed. So might as well just cover that whole area so that we are covered from our trees. Okay, so there we go. Pretty close to being, I still don't have it quite orangey enough, probably could go in with a little bit more of this intense orange and pink, magenta and orange, and make kind of a reddish color, and then I can use my glaze. And so make sure that my color is dry. Let me go ahead and clean this brush out. In fact, I'm going to get a little bit smaller brush so I can be a little bit more intentional about where I'm putting this color. So get some of that transparent reddish orange color. And I'm just going to brush it in my clouds and just use my finger to kind of smudge it out. Try not to get it on your blue sky, but just kind of intensify that top edge of my clouds. This is transparent, so it'll go in nice and soft. I can kind of control how much of it is. And it's not going to be opaque, so if it does get on my blue, it's transparent, so it won't alter my blue sky too much. But it'll be really visible on my pink areas, or my yellow clouds here. It's kind of helping give my clouds a little bit more of a orangey glow. A little closer to the reference photo colors. Make sure I'm spraying these. Anytime you're mixing paints, you're thinning it out and introducing air into your mixture, so
good and moisturous area.
Right, so it'll dry faster than and you may not need to do that. If you got your clouds kind of more orange than I did mine, you may not have to do this, but mine were kind of a little bit yellow everywhere. So I'm just going to add this to make them a little bit more reddish. Okay, that's better. A bit, and I feel like the color could be a little bit darker too in my sky, but yeah, okay. Let me get some of my blue, light blue for my color down here. And I'm just gonna kind of smudge it in between here in some places over my clouds, just to soften up some of those edges. So you can see the difference between where I did it and where I haven't done it. So it just kind of depends on if you like that look or not. I kind of like that softer, kind of more blended out look to my sky.
So stuff like this, it comes down to patience.
Yes.
It's just like you said, layers.
Yep.
Just thin layer after thin layer, just
Right.
slowly building it up.
Yep.
Each cloud isn't exactly layered the same because obviously the sun's hitting everyone differently. So
Right. Yeah, these ones that are over here are a little bit more bright, so I'm going to get I've got a little bit of white in my yellow here. I'm going to put that down and then just smudge out the area around it a little bit. Don't do too many of these or you won't be able to smudge it before it dries, but get the idea. Okay. Okay. So let's go ahead and kind of ended up with a lot of clouds. Don't have a lot of these individual clouds that's in the photograph, so if I want to go back in, I can kind of dab in little individual clouds here, trying to separate out some of these larger color blocks to give them a little bit more definition. And yes, you just have to kind of have patience and stop every now and then and look at it from a distance. So I'm stopping every now and then as I'm painting and looking at my photograph or my painting in the monitor so that I can kind of see what it looks like from a distance. And that helps give me a little bit of perspective on what it's doing and what changes I might need to make. Getting some of that pink, putting that back in. I can hear the cashmere in the monitor and the purring.
Do you have any cat hair on me?
Is that a cat hair shirt? Is that a new thing? We could sell cat hair shirts with cashmere. She's got plenty to spare. I'm going to take some of this lighter pink here and just fluff it out of my sky over here so that I get a little bit of the soft wispy stuff happening off the edge there.
Is that the 1/8 inch or 1/4 inch blender?
This is a 1/4 inch blender.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I started out with the 3/8 inch. Now I'm using the 1/4 inch just for a little bit lighter application of paint, a little bit more focused. And going back in here and adding my light color back in to some of these clouds that got a little dark. Okay. Okay, I think that's good. I'll stop there. Spend a whole hour on my clouds there. Mark's like, that's good. Time's a wasting. All right, let's get going here. Let's do our pine trees. I'm going to get some purple and turquoise, a little bit of burnt sienna. And then some of my yellow. So I'm going to use the Indian Yellow Hue here. That'll make a nice dark green. Okay, and then I'm gonna grab some of this color from the sky, that yellow from the sky. There, mix them both together and have kind of both in my brush. Here, I'm going to go ahead and put a large tree kind of right in here. I'm just going to tap straight up. And it's going to, again, kind of do this bowl shape. So I want this to be about the same height as the tallest trees here. So it's going to come up to about right here. Right in there, and then my trees over here and here. It's not wanting to come off of here. If it's not coming off, I need to add a little bit more water. You have to add a little water to your paint for the fan brush to work well. Works if it's a little bit more fluid. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to tap side to side. The ones that are at the top of the tree kind of come upward. And then when you get about halfway down, you kind of start to pull them down a little bit. There we go.
You know I'm a fan of that brush, right?
No comment. Okay. Now this color should be almost as dark as my rocks here. So I should be able to kind of tell that it's green, but should be pretty, when I meet the rocks here, it should kind of just blend in. So Puppy Kim. It's Pickle, what are you doing? Just okay. There was another one kind of right in here. can add some of my turquoise color from my water. Do that in here, this one. A little bit more turquoise maybe. Maybe a little bit more narrow. And then just make sure that the middle part where you're kind of starting from is fairly solid. So kind of leaving the little gaps around the branches on either side, but the middle part kind of comes together and is fairly solid. Okay. And then we'll do another tree here. And I'm just kind of adding foliage back in here in between these trees. And then we'll add some of the lighter trees on top. Just kind of using a corner there. So kind of like this whole corridor here should be kind of fairly solid. And then there's some far distant smaller trees back here. They're really actually on top of the other trees, so I'll probably need to come put them in later again. Let's do one over here, kind of goes off the edge. And then there's just some smaller trees back in here. So this is what will give the illusion of distance. So if you make these trees much smaller and then make these ones bigger, these ones that are closer to the sides coming at us, and then these ones that are farther away back here, shorter, much shorter, and falling away in the distance, kind of push them back. You can also add some of your sky color like I did to that one, but even more, so I can grab some of that whitish blue that's in there and kind of use that back in here and do some trees with that. And that will really push these trees back. So this whole area I could kind of fill in with. Foliage and things that are influenced with that sky color. And really push them back visually by using that sky in my trees. It's a really good little trick. Yeah, let's do it some over here too. Some of these that are maybe in between and shorter might be that. Okay, see that?
Bloom the forest.
Huh?
And bloom the forest.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like doing trees. It's very satisfying. Okay, so clean that out. And then now I just need to decide where I want to put these other trees and what colors I want them to be and stuff. So I'm gonna try and think if I want to use this brush still. I think I'm gonna get a small Deerfoot stippler. There we go. I'm going to get that one. That's a 1/4 inch Deerfoot. It's a rounded edge. Just gives me a little bit more precision than this one. It's a little bit thinner at the tip. You can see, that little tip is only a few bristles thick, and it gives me a little bit more control. Okay, so what colors do we want to use? Let's use some bright springy colors, so that spring greens will have a lot of yellow in them as those trees emerge. So I'm going to get some yellow, cadmium yellow light. This will also look good with our color scheme. We've already got this yellow in our sky, so I'm just going to add this to that green that I used for my trees. And I'm just going to use that. Here we go. And just pop in some, I've already got this kind of turquoisey green going on here. I might even grab some of that orangey red from our sky. Let's use some of that in here. Okay. Get some of that turquoisey blue. Use some of that for make some of these bushes a little bit bigger. And then you need contrast, so I'm going to get some of that darker green here and do some trees in front with some darker green. I'll just push back the those distant trees there a little bit. And I also want to watch the placement between my trees, so I'm not going by my photograph right now, just kind of making this up. So just make sure that I'm leaving kind of odd distance between my trees, so I can kind of like crowd them together and do 2 or 3 that are like really close together. And then leave a space and kind of do a few more that are a little bit farther apart. And then these ones are a little bit farther apart here. And also kind of help differentiate them by making them a little taller than, you know, the background trees here and there too. So maybe make this one a little bit taller up in here so that it kind of separates itself out from the pack a little bit. And these distant trees also, I'm not putting as much detail into them, so I'm not going to put in all the individual branches and that kind of thing, and that will also kind of help with that illusion of distance, because when things get farther away, they get a little bit more indistinct. You can't really tell what's what as much anymore. You're not seeing your individual branches because they're too far away. So kind of doing it that way, I can kind of push that back, and then I can put, you know, kind of a lighter bush in front of this tree here. Let's put a big pink blossoming tree right here. I want something nice and bright spring-like. So let's get a magenta. Got some of that already in our sky. I'm going to get a little bit of the Quinacridone burnt orange, and I'm going to get just a tiny touch of this green. There we go. So now we've got this nice mature dark magenta. I'm going to use it in front of some of these trees. So I'm going to put it over here. And a little bit over the top of that tree. And then I'm going to put a big one right in here. And just something like that. And then let's do a third smaller one somewhere. So just a little hint of something down in here maybe. Okay, then get some white. Add that, maybe get a little bit more of the magenta so it's a little bit brighter. So I'm going to make kind of a mid-tone color. And turn my tip over, so I'm just using the very tip of it. And I'm going to dab in, just like we did on the clouds, I'm going to go over the top So my darker area is kind of toward the bottom or where the sunlight's not hitting it. So kind of thinking about where the light would be hitting this and making sure that I'm doing that. Okay, let's go ahead and bring some out this way. I like it. And then maybe in the middle, I've got a little bit more solid area. Getting a little bit more of the mid-dark tone here. There we go. And those cherry trees kind of do this like wide sweeping branches, so they're not like a really tidy shape. They kind of do a lot of wandering side to side. So I'm trying to leave a little bit of room between these branches so that get that feel. And I'm going to go back in and add my tree trunks to these two, because obviously right now they look like they're kind of floating. Don't want that. Okay. Nice. All right, I'm going to get this brush again, and this time I want to do more of a fluffy tree. So I'm going to hold my brush a little bit differently. Instead of doing it upside down, I'm going to kind of hold it upright, but tilt it toward the canvas. Tilt the tip toward the canvas this way. So before I was flipping it upside down and tapping it this way to get my kind of straight lines. And we kind of showed it a couple weeks ago on this, but to do the lines, you're going to use the tip. But if I want a more bushy tree, I'm going to flip it and pull the tip down and kind of pull down with it a little bit. So there's the difference. Flipping it. So the cherry tree, I did it this way with it upside down and kind of horizontal strokes. And then for these trees, these white trees, I'm going to flip it and do them this way. And kind of tilt my brush up this way and kind of pull down just slightly as I paint. And the more pull down I get, the more weeping willow type of brush strokes I can get. So if I wanted to do like a weeping willow, which I may do, I kind of like that idea. Or just, just a foliage, like I can do it over the top of this. You can see it really well what I'm doing. See? Like that. Okay, so lots of stuff you can do with these brushes just by kind of changing the direction and the angle. So I'm going to use that white and do some white over. I've already got some darker green under here, so I can kind of just do that white over the top. Let's do a little bit of white down here. Maybe a low growing white bushes. And I don't want to get too busy with this, so I may get a little bit more of that light yellow and add that to my white there. There we go. Kind of softened it up a little bit. It was looking a little bit too harsh, like we don't have any other white anywhere else. So, of course, when we get our waterfall going, we'll have some white with that, but I might add just a little bit over here, but we'll see. I think that might be good enough for now. Okay, so we'll stop there. And actually, I probably don't want, now that I'm looking at it, I probably don't want that white one right there or too close to that one, because I'll have my water coming down there and it probably is going to confuse it. So I don't think I want to do that. I'm going to get some blue here. let's do some of my, let's do more of an orange maybe, like my sky color. Let's do like a salmony pink. It's got a little bit of yellow in it, a little bit of pink. So just slightly different from what I had before, but there we go. This is a little bit different. And I'm going to put that dark green in front of it. Just pulling up a little bit. Some grasses. Okay. Gonna get a thinner brush than round brush here and get some black and do my cherry tree branches. I'm just gonna kind of find little opening spots and do that, and maybe over the top in a few places.
And which brush is it?
This is a one round, or two script liner, sorry. Two script liner.
And below the video here, there's a link to the brush guys. Get all kinds of awesome brushes there.
Mm-hmm.
There's some beginner sets, intermediate set that Angela's worked with.
I think this is in the intermediate set.
Okay.
This brush is, and a lot of the Deerfoot stipplers and things are in the beginner and intermediate sets. I'm not sure if, I think that maybe the 3/8 inch Deerfoot stippler. I don't know that I have the smaller one in there in any of the sets, but they do sell them, so you can buy them individually too if they don't have them in the set. It's been a while since I've created those sets, so I don't remember exactly which ones are in there, but I'm pretty sure that the script liner is in it.
Well, I'll go check real quick. And then also make sure you use the code Angela Fine Art, all one word, for 5% off.
Yes.
The already
Otherwise
low
they
price.
don't know that we sent you. Plus you get a discount, so win-win. Win-win-win. All right, I'm going to get a little bit more yellow and white with my fan brush here. Some Indian yellow. I'm just, again, kind of mimicking the sky color. And I'm going to use that in some of my bushes. I think I'm going to use it in here instead of this whitish bush. Okay. I need something a little bit darker back here, so I'm going to get some of my dark green again and do some darker bushes over the top of this lighter. So that really dark color. And then we added yellow to it. Making some more of that dark green here that we had the turquoise, purple, burnt umber, burnt sienna, yellow, Indian yellow hue. Okay, there we go. I'm just going to make this darker right here. There we go. Okay, and then let's make some of these darker in here. Okay. We'll see. We may mess with it a little bit more. I don't know. I'm gonna do some little sticks and things with my liner brush. If you're getting thick lines like I just did, I mean, you just need to add a little bit more water. And I'm just kind of using a soft off-white with some of this greens in it. So I just got some fairly thick lines there. So to get them thinner, you just have to add a little bit of water. All right, I think that's good. Let's go ahead and move on to the rocks here. So these will go fairly fast because we've already got our dark in here, so they're going to kind of come out pretty quickly. I'm going to get some blue from our sky color and add a little bit of burnt umber, burnt sienna to it. Let's start with the burnt sienna. Be a little softer. And a little bit of the unbleached titanium too. And I'm kind of gonna use kind of just a combo of colors here to get my rock color. I think that's pretty close. Might go a little bit lighter because you can't really see it against my background there. So I might go a little bit lighter so I have better contrast between my dark and lights areas. Okay, so let's try that. There we go. So now you can see the difference. You can see it over the top of my trees. And then I'm going to leave some space in between some of these. And so leave these dark areas here and there. And very lightly pull down with the brush, almost touching the canvas flat. That will give me like these rough, jagged texture showing up on the canvas. Okay. And then let's get maybe a little bit different color, a little bit more reddish. And we'll create a different plane right here with that. And really the main thing with rocks is just to kind of have these angular lines. See that line there, these more boxy shapes happening with kind of a little bit of dark to break them up. So it honestly doesn't really matter what the shapes are as long as you kind of have just a little bit of this dark in between and some rough texture here and there. So we're kind of creating these like granite outcroppings or these little rocky outcroppings in ours here. Like it. And then go back in and get some of the brighter color, maybe a little bit of blue or yeah. And just add a little highlight on some of these spots. Okay, so we'll keep on going here. So I'm going to leave a little space. I'm going to do a lot of blue in this area, but I'm going to get more of this color, this more warm brown down in here. This is kind of the split between this waterfall and this one over here. Seeing some lines coming across. Yeah, and I can use kind of a lighter color here too, and then just glaze like we did in our sky where we added that pink glow. I can use just, you know, any kind of neutral color with a little bit of a light tint to it on my rocks here, and then I can go back in and add more of a color over the top later, and that's what I'll probably do. Add a little bit more blue here. I want some large flat rocks that have some blue in them. And then if I want it to look like it's sticking out a little bit, I can kind of get some dark, add it under. I kind of covered up too much my dark area here. I've got a little area of rock that's kind of sticking out right here into the light, so I can add it. I'm going back in with a little bit more lighter color here, adding some highlights on my rocks. Okay. I'm going over here, getting some of that kind of reddish. Let's get some burnt umber too. Where this light is coming out is where the light, or the, you know, the rock is going to look like it's sticking out a little bit to catch that light. So we can create these kind of ins and outs in our rock here. I'm going to get a little bit more of that kind of reddish tone with the Indian Yellow Hue and the burnt sienna. Do some of this rock over here with that. And what I'm going to want to do is just use all the same colors that I've used all up in here. So I want to use magenta, and I want to use the pinks, all the blues from the sky, all the greens. All these colors are going to come together back in here and in our water, and that's going to tie everything together. So I'm just going to kind of do a little hodgepodge of all my colors in here to really get a really interesting color story going on. As it gets closer to the water, it's getting a little bit darker. Let me get some of my darker reds. Nice. Okay, so in here I want my purples and blues. I'm going to get my blues, a little bit of purple, and I'm going to add that to this color. So I'm still using the same colors, just kind of adding more of a purpley blue tint to them. Even get a little bit of that sky turquoise color, which I've got right here. I can grab in. All right. And this is one of the few times where you don't have to worry about your colors getting muddy, because you kind of want them to be sort of all over the place here. We want sort of a muddier, not super muddy, but you know what I mean. Like we want kind of a darker, more neutral tones. That's the word. Okay, so I'm going to use some burnt umber here with these neutral blues and purples and things to create some grays that I can use in my water area. And these should be just a couple of shades lighter than what we've used elsewhere. And this will kind of be around our, kind of underneath our water and right alongside of it, where a little bit more grayed out. It's kind of going back in, or maybe not catching the light as much for whatever reason, or very wet, so it's darkening up the stone. That's probably the reason right there, more than anything. And if you don't like the blues, you can always just use browns. That's fine too. I'm just kind of playing with the colors here a little bit, taking a little bit artistic license. Why not, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a fun thing about being an artist. You get to kind of make it up as you go.
Well, it worked out with the bunny, so.
It's true. Yeah, he turned out really cute. Using kind of a gray purple here. Just kind of added a little bit of burnt sienna or burnt orange. I'm sorry, unbleached titanium to my purpley brown color. And ooh, there we go. So that's coming out into the water right there. And a lot of the water, we're not actually seeing the rock where it's touching down. It's kind of so dark. It's all kind of disappearing. Let me get a little bit of that blue sky color. Use a little bit of that. Highlight some of these shadow rocks. Ultramarine blue with these grays. That's going to really be a pretty color to use. Yeah, I like that. That's going to really look nice with that sky color. Okay, so that was just ultramarine blue. I still had all these browns and things in here, but I just added a little bit more ultramarine blue to that with the unbleached titanium, and I think there was some purple in my brush still probably, but mostly that ultramarine blue. Try to really bring that color out. And I'm going to add it in over here in some of my darker areas. And this ultramarine blue, these cool blues and purples are great for using in our shadow areas. So you can use them where you want the light to look like it's hitting it, but you still want it to look like it's in like a little bit of a shadowed area. So this ultramarine blue is one of my favorite colors to use for that, because it has that purple cool leaning color, but you can actually make the value of it, the lightness of it, quite light, but it still will look like a shadow, because it is so it could be this, you know, like really similar in tone to or in value is just how dark or light a color is. So our blue there is probably right in here, right, this ultramarine blue here, which is very similar to like this color, but this will look darker. It'll look darker. It'll look farther away than this, because it is a cool tone, and cool tones recede. This is a warmer tone. It's got that warmer browns or reddish colors in it, especially right here. You can tell the difference. So this looks like it's kind of fading away and getting a little farther away, and that is because we are using a cooler color. So you can kind of use the colors to manipulate your values too. You don't have to just rely on white. You can use colors, and it will kind of play with the eye too and make these shadow areas look like they're farther away just by adding a little bit of blue to that color, and that's why I kind of saved it for this area around the water. All right. All right, and I am probably gonna go back in and glaze with a little bit of brown to kind of tone everything in and make it a little bit more natural looking, because right now it's kind of a little bit all over the place, but I'm pretty happy with this on the whole. Gonna maybe make a little bit of, okay, I like it. I want to keep that line there pretty hard edged. That's what makes it look like it's kind of sticking out right there. Okay, so let's go ahead and add our water to our waterfall. Well, let's go. Before I do that, I want to add a little bit of my blues to my water. Here, I'm going to grab that sky blue color that I was just using. I'm going to use this brush and do this side to side tapping. Just tap it kind of side to side. And around my water, it's going to kind of do a little sort of concentric circles a little bit, and then sort of lead off, and the foam will kind of create these kind of lines that lead off, and then I'm just going to keep on like this. This area is going to be pretty solid with white. I'm going to start with this kind of more toned down blue here. And this area is going to be the splashdown for this waterfall. And if it's a little bit farther away, what I can do is kind of tap in smaller little bits. It'll make it look like a little bit farther away. Thinner lines, smaller lines. And then as they get closer to us, we can kind of increase the size. And I've done this. You could use a Filbert brush for this too. Kind of sometimes a little bit softer looking lines with the Filbert, but that's pretty good. And I definitely like the brighter blue here. I think it needed it a little bit. It's still dark. It's still, pretty close to the same value as our original photo, but we've lightened it up just a little bit. But we've just given a little bit of tint of color. Definitely better. Okay, I really like that. And I'm probably going to add some of my yellow to my sky down in here, or like from my yellow color. And get some of that if I have any left. Come on, cooperate. Here we go. Yeah. All right, so let's add a little bright pop of yellow to some of that too. And just find my little reflections and put it just like my clouds, just like my other stuff. We're just gonna add a darker color down and then add your highlight kind of towards the light side of it. So we've got like a shadow side and a highlight side, and I can do it on its own too, but it'll be more effective if I have a little bit darker color with it too. And I don't want to do it too close to the rock because I don't feel like that yellow is gonna, I probably did it up a little bit too high right here. I don't feel like that yellow is gonna get up that high. That light's not gonna get down in that area. So I'm just gonna keep it low in my water here. Just get a little bit of reflection, and I'm gonna glaze back over this. So I'm going a little bit brighter than I think I need to with this, because I'm gonna add a little bit of that blue back in. Okay, that's good. So let me go ahead and use, I think I'm going to use this brush here for my waterfalls. And I'm going to start with my, probably this blue here that I've been using, that ultramarine blue that's got that brown in it. A little bit of purpley, whatever. Just that kind of neutral color of our water and all. And I'm going to come in here. I'm going to leave just a little bit of that darker color right here. So I'm going to start like right there, I think, and pull it down. And it's kind of hitting the rocks as it goes down, so it's not like a smooth, totally smooth. And it's widening out a little bit. You can see I'm kind of dragging it, so I'm letting some of the background still show through. Okay, so we'll start very subtle, and then we'll go. This one's coming in from right here, and they're meeting up right here. I want to make it a little bit more obvious that there's two separate ones that are meeting up right here. And this one is kind of at an angle, the way it's coming down. Right there. Okay. And then I'm going to get the Zinc White and add a little bit of my turquoisey blue to it with my watercolor, right? And a little bit of the purple, turquoise and purple. If you have some of that watercolor left that you started with, you can grab that. I think I added a little bit of burnt sienna to it also. That'll just make it a little bit more of a neutral, normal color. It won't look so bright, you know. Super saturated. It'll just desaturate it just enough to make it look a little bit more of a natural color. Okay, so I'm going to use, and then this should be pretty close to the same values we just had. And then I'm going to add more of that Zinc White to it. There we go. And just start kind of tapping in and dragging. So tap and drag. And I don't want to do too much of this, so I'm going to kind of start subtle. I'm trying not to overdo. I might just do the white, though. I feel like I might end up with too many layers. I'm going to go ahead and tap in my white to that blue color there. And then where I'm seeing my longer lines, the only part that I'm seeing like a really solid blue is sort of like in, or white I mean, is kind of in the middle, but there is pretty patchy. It's like splashing and doing interesting things. So I'm going to kind of tap and allow some of that, kind of like we did the floof on the clouds, you know, kind of softly blend out that spray and then just add it to the water there. Okay, I think that's pretty good. I don't think I'm going to do much more than that to it. So tapping that blue color in kind of helped it. That gets a little bit of darker color and a little bit lighter color without it kind of being too over blended, because then you'll just end up with a solid color. Kind of want a little bit of the blue to show up here and there, and a little bit of the white too, so that I have a little bit of both in my brush at the same time as I'm doing this. And I'm seeing this one kind of has a similar look to it. It's kind of got like a brokenness to the thing. Some waterfalls are, you know, like if they're straight down and they're really thick with water, sometimes they'll just look like a straight sheet of water if it's unbroken. But these ones are kind of hitting the rocks on the way down, so they're fluffing out and making these little splashy areas here. So I'm just trying to kind of replicate that a little bit. So kind of doing a combo of that pulling down and tapping as I do this. So I think it's looking pretty good. What do you think? Am I hitting it? Let me do some right here that's coming down.
Well, it looks nothing like a tank, but...
Nothing like a tank?
No.
Actually, I did not mean to do that right there. I need to get that off.
Who are you whispering to? I think they saw it. I'm not sure.
Okay. Excuse me.
Nothing to see here.
Okay, and then my little splashdown area here, just tapping and widening out the base there a little bit. Already kind of got it sort of in there. I'm just going to kind of pull. There we go. Cashmere, what are you doing?
Trying to find anything
To get up on your lap? Mm-hmm. She's giving you the lovey eyes like, oh, Father, surely you want me on your lap right now. Okay, getting some of that turquoisey blue color, my watercolor. And I'm just going to kind of tap that in with my fan brush now, kind of along the edge of, bottom edge of my water line there, to kind of soften up where that water is hitting in the water. And I can add it to my waterfall a little bit too, just tap up into it a little bit with that blue. This is just the transition color between my blue, dark blue water and my white splash of waterfall. Okay, I think we're pretty close. And then let's add this color to my we've got now I'm going to use my turquoise and a little bit of the Phthalo blue and my glaze, and add a little bit of the burnt sienna to the glaze just so that it's that watercolor color, the watercolor. And okay, so here's my glaze. I can glaze over parts of my I don't have to glaze all of it, but especially back in here where I might want it a little bit more softened. I can do that. I can use a damp paper towel, kind of wipe that in, kind of soften it around, and then I'm going to use the 6 Bright again, and my black, a little bit of purple, a little bit of the blues, blue, purple, a little bit of black. So just my dark area back in here. And I'm going to glaze with that. If I can get some of that glaze. Okay. And I'm going to get down in my water here. This area here is pretty dark. And I'm going to kind of go underneath my waterfall right there, right along it. Add some of this along the bottom of it and sides just to kind of shadow that area, and then just kind of glaze over some of my rocks. We'll I'm kind of going to create a little bit of a vignette here where I'm kind of darkening up my corners of my water here just slightly. And using that glaze in my dark parts of my rocks. So I already kind of did it on this side. I'm going to continue it on this side, and I'm going to go in my dark areas and kind of shadow around my rocks a little bit like it would naturally do, so that I have a little bit of a natural kind of break and softening around the edges, so it doesn't look like a hard line between the dark and the light. It kind of has a little bit of this. This is not going on this is going on transparent, so it's not a hard color. It's a soft blend of my dark colors, so it's going to go over my light areas and just kind of merge them with my dark, a little bit softer transition between those dark and light areas. And again, I can kind of go beside my waterfall if I need a little bit more highlight on those. Add shadows in my rocks here and there. It just kind of melts it all together. Merges all these colors and shapes and things. Nicely. Okay, that's a little bit dark, so maybe let's grab a little bit of this with my blue, and I'm just gonna kind of go over that a little bit and soften that up a little bit. I grabbed a little bit of the color that was in the water. Okay. Really like this. I think it's looking good. So let me define this area a little bit better with my rocks. So bring this back. So the area that that is coming out of, get some highlight color and do right here, and then highlight again kind of down right as it's coming out, so that it's going back into here. I'm going to get some of that white and just kind of clean up that leading edge of it. Same thing with this one, kind of give this more of a straight line, or kind of obvious where it's starting. All right. Get a little bit of that white and just gonna dab in some, and this has got that color that we were just using for the shadow in it still, so you can see it's in there, so it's kind of tinting that white a little bit. And we're just gonna add more of my water ripples again back in. I can add pink if I want. I can add, you know, whatever colors that are in my sky. I do want to add a little bit of that magenta into here somewhere so that it's not the only place in my painting. So I've got it in my sky, so I can add it, just a little bit of it to my water, just to, and you won't notice it. I don't want to add it so obvious that it's like, why is there pink in the water? But I want just a little bit, little touch of it. So, oh, we're doing right at 2 hours. Nice. I was thinking it would be about a 2-hour painting. Very good. I was like that when that works out. Okay. So I'm going to just add a little bit of pink. So just so you can see it's kind of dusting into my highlights. And so you can just kind of see a little bit of pink tones, or maybe the sky is influencing this water just a little bit. I think that'll be all I really need to do. I can add a little bit of it maybe in my rocks too. Let's add a little bit of pink to the magenta to the unbleached titanium here, and a little bit of brown, or actually like a little bit of the burnt orange with the pink magenta. I can add it to where these rocks are kind of sticking out, that are kind of that. Yeah, see how that's nice? I like that. Just like a little touch of that pink in here in our rocks. It's going to really tie it all together nicely. Very good. Okay. Ooh, that's nice. That brings it forward too. Get a little bit of that yellow, any yellow hue, and add that to it. Get a little bit of yellow in our rocks. Some of that unbleached titanium. Maybe up in here where it's catching the light, let's get some yellow. This is all up to you. You keep your warm colors where you want the rocks to come out and look like they're brighter, and you keep the cooler colors in your shadows, and you can play with them. I really like when I get to this point though, and I can kind of start playing with the colors a little bit and just adding a touch here and a touch here. They'll really kind of help tie it all together. I'm going to add some of the green that's in our trees down here, in our rocks. There's some moss I can see. Some of the rocks. Get some of that yellow green and add it to this kind of pink that we had going on. Get the turquoise and yellow, and then add it to this magenta color that we were just using. And I'm seeing some greens in my rocks right in here. So I'm just going to kind of pick some areas to touch in some greens, especially like right where the water is hitting. That's good. I like it. Do I need to do anything more to the trees, do you think? Is that too bright there, or is that okay?
You have 4 pink trees.
Okay, so I need a 5th one. Make it an uneven. Okay, let's see. I'll do a small one. I don't want to. Okay, so that my temptation is to do that, but your first instinct is going to be to make pattern. So you have to fight that. And so my first instinct is like, oh, there's an open spot right there. Let's just put it right in the middle. But then it would be like boom, 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 and everything would be evenly spaced. So I need to offset it.
Put one in. I would just change the tone of one of them.
Maybe make that one a different color.
Just change that one slightly.
Okay. Make it a little bit more of a yellow, orangey.
Yeah.
Okay. Can add a little bit of orange to it. I just don't want to go. Just sometimes orange makes it look like fall. So it's. You're not gonna. There's like a quince that blooms kind of that bright orangey red. So I might do red. But it's probably too big too, because these are supposed to look far away. And it being it's so big, it looks close. It's pulling it closer, so I need to maybe make it a little smaller. Get a little bit of, come on. And green had that burnt umber or burnt sienna in it. I always add it to my green. I'm using the phthalo blue because I don't have any more of my turquoise out. I'm going to use the Ultramarine Blue turquoise from the sky that I had in that tree there. Just going to take that one out altogether. It could just look better without it. Yeah, that's better. I'm going to take this one out too. Yeah. Okay, so now I've got like a turquoisey blob here, so I need to kind of, do something with it. So I'm just going to get a little bit of my green and my darker turquoise and kind of just add a little bit along the bottom. This is why you want to do it before you do the rest of your stuff, because it's a lot harder to paint around things once they're already in there. Okay, and then I'm going to get some really dark, like black. Add this to that green. Just add some really dark bushes in front of it. That will push it back. Also give me some good contrast for that rock right there. I'm going to use my fan brush. Get just a little bit of my light yellow. Keep it really small back there. Now that I know where my waterfall is, I can do this and keep it away from the waterfall. Just do a little tiny small. Bushes. Make this one a little bit taller. Okay. Again, now I have 4 of them, so we'll do a small one right here. Okay. All right. Is that good? I'm using some of that green just to kind of add a little bit of softness underneath the bushes, these white bushes. So they look like they have some leaves. A little bit of yellow with it. Come on. My paint's too thick for this fan brush, but okay. Yeah, I like it. I like a little bit more of that pink tone to it. I can also, I've noticed there's some other trees that are kind of in the back. I'm going to get some of that kind of olivey color and add some taller trees back in here. Just kind of sparse, maybe up in here. And then I can add a few little tiny branches. Keep these really small. Get some burnt umber. Yeah, just do some tiny tree trunks. Keep them small. Get the smallest little fan brushes or liner brush that you can. Do very small little branches. Yeah, these are going on kind of thick. All right. What do we think? Are we done?
Looks pretty good.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
I like it. Get the whole sky in there. Get the full effect. So I'm thinking maybe just to finish it off, I'm going to take my large flat here and my ultramarine blue and burnt and I need a clean palette. Ultramarine blue and phthalo blue. That is so satisfying, isn't it? Oh, it's just like
Clean slate.
I love it. All right. Just a little bit of burnt umber. That will kind of tone it and make it a little bit less super bright. There we go. A little bit more of the blue, ultramarine blue than the phthalo blue. Again, and my glaze. I'm going to get my glazing medium and pour some of that in there. Just a little dot. There we go. A couple dots. That'll just make it stick better when you have a lot of water in your paint with acrylics, with these heavy body acrylics. They don't have as much binder as some of the cheaper acrylics do. They have more pigment, so you gotta make room for the pigment with less binder. And so there we go. Yeah. I'm gonna really thin here. So I put the dark on where I want it, and I'm gonna quickly brush over just that corner. I'm getting some brush strokes in it, which I don't want, but it's kind of self-leveling, so if you're getting brush strokes, you can wipe your brush out and very lightly with the kind of dry brush, just kind of very lightly, barely touching it. Or a mop brush if you have one. You could use a mop brush here instead of that for this step, but I'm just gonna lightly, there we go. I like it. Darkening up my clouds in that area too. Just glazing, this is glazing. Okay, and then I'm gonna use this wet paper towel here. Gotta find a clean spot here. Just damp. I'm gonna kind of brush it back, push it back where I don't want it. You gotta do this while it's wet, otherwise if it starts to dry, it'll kind of make it uneven. Not really sure why it's streaking like it is. So I'm just going to kind of use my towel to create some texture in there. It'll look like clouds. Okay. Good. Okay, there we go. It's just a little bit darker in that upper corner. Now it's starting to dry. It's going to come off nicely. Okay. Good. Use some of this color with my water, my white here in my water with my fan brush. Whoops. I'm mostly keeping it mostly level, but yeah. Kind of around this one, it kind of goes a little bit in concentric circles around it a little bit. They're still flat, but they're kind of angling in toward the water. This brush is too big. It's not doing it for me. I'm going to use my 1/4 inch angle. This is just that blue sky color with my white. So just another little layer detail. And you may not need this. If your water's perfect, leave it. Just adding a little bit more detail to mine because I felt like the blue color of that and the blue color of my water is not quite matching up like I like it to. And I could glaze a little bit like I did on my sky. I could glaze a little bit in my water if I want to get this blue color in here a little bit. Or you could glaze a little bit of your sky color or your blue color into your sky there A little bit of this watercolor into my sky. But this is that sky color. Yeah, a little bit there. Okay, I'm going to stop because I'm fiddling now. So, sorry, Mark's like, you've been fiddling for the last 15 minutes.
No comment.
Well, sometimes that's what adds the last little oomph, though. It brings it over the edge, so.
For sure.
Gotta leave room for the details here. I'm gonna sign it and we'll be done.
All right.
Not sure if this is gonna be the right color.
Ooh, there we go. Got some cowbell in there.
Yeah. A little bit too. Go for it.
All right, super chat is from Cindy and says, "Thanks for the great cloud tutorial.
Oh, good.
They are so hard for me, but today's tutorial made them look not so intimidating."
Oh, good, good. Well, I'll help you try it, Cindy. It just takes practice, and I think a lot of times the thing that trips people up is that how much paint's on their brush. So just play with that. Play with different amounts of paint on your brush, and hopefully that'll help you. Lots of layers.
And then we had one question regarding, do you find that it's difficult to blend acrylic paints? Person seems to have a little bit of difficulty maybe.
Blending acrylic paints?
Yeah.
It's definitely more challenging because they dry fast, so you have to work faster. So if you tend to be kind of slow with your, painting, or a little bit more methodical, and you're not able to keep up with a dry time, you can add extenders to your paint. You can there's all kinds of things you can do to kind of help be able to manipulate the paint a little bit easier with acrylics. But I think that also with blending is that you also don't have to get it right the first time. So if you're blending your colors and it doesn't work out on your first layer, just let it dry and try it again. I think people mess that. Well, I was gonna do it, but I can't show you on paper. But a lot of people, when they're blending, will try to blend the two colors and get it just right the first time. And if it doesn't work out, then let me go ahead and do it. Actually, if they would just wait, let it dry, and do it again, a lot of times the second time around, it'll be a little bit better. But one thing that can help is, let me see what colors I have here to blend. Let's blend our pink here. We'll use orange and orange and burnt umber, I guess. Okay, so I'm going to have to add a lot of white water to my paint to do it on paper. But a lot of times what I'll do is kind of add a little bit extra paint there. You can kind of see I've got a little bit extra paint on here. So I'll put my color down, really quickly clean out my brush, grab my second color, and make sure that the paint color has enough water in it too. A little bit of water can help. Adding a little bit of glazing medium, which has a little bit of extender in it, can help too. Okay, so I've got my two colors together, and they're not quite mixing. I can take a little bit of each color and kind of make a third color and sort of bridge the gap. And then I will wipe my brush off, and I'll take that excess paint that's in both of those and just kind of blend over between them very lightly. It'll pick up color, and I can tell that I've got a lot of that brown on here. So I'm going to wipe my brush off, pick up some of my lighter color, and blend it back this way. wipe my brush off. So each time that you're doing it, wipe your brush off. And then if you don't get it, and then you can pick up also, while this is still wet, you can pick up some of the color that you need more of. And oftentimes it'll be your lighter color, and blend that back in. But that's how I like to blend. Another way of blending would be to do kind of a cross blend where you're taking your color and you're setting your brush down and you're kind of doing like this. So you're doing kind of a fuzzy blend where, and you probably would have a third color underneath that would be like the combination of these two colors so that it's easy to blend. But then that, and then you take your orange. I don't have any more of that red, so. And again, see how quickly I'm working. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I think that that's what people are, like, you know, they kind of don't let themselves don't let the painting develop. Like, they want it to look good on the first layer. And a lot of times you're going to have to make it look ugly before it's going to look better. So that's another way of blending where it's just a little bit more rough blend. And I'm just setting my brush down and kind of flicking it towards the next color, and then taking that other color and flicking it in the opposite direction. And this is just a setting it down and kind of flicking it. It does better on canvas. On paper, it's just kind of grabbing all the moisture out of the brush and not really flicking, but you get the idea. So that's two different ways of blending. This one I think is a little bit easier a lot of times for beginners. Set it down, and once you get that flicking technique, and then that way the brush does the work for you, and it kind of does that blend for you, and you're not actually having to blend back and forth over it. And you can blend back and forth once you get this on here. You can blend back and forth, but you're not using as much paint, so you're not having to wipe your brush off. You're not having to worry about, you know, how much paint you're using. Your paper is kind of pulling that paint off, or your canvas is kind of pulling that paint off, and it's creating this broken line where you want your blend to happen. So, all right, hopefully that helped. I'm gonna stop there.
One more question. Grayscale.
Grayscale?
Can you kind of explain the use of grayscale?
Grayscale, as far as this here,
Yeah.
okay. So in every painting, just about every painting, you're going to want to have some areas of your really light and really dark. Most of your area in your painting is going to live in here. But I'm going to want at least a few areas where this brightest color, or, you know, this color here, are going to draw the most attention. So I want those colors to be the most impactful in the place that I want my attention to go. So usually on my main focal point, I'm going to use this really bright area and then have a dark area that's almost black right next to it. And what that's going to do is force your eye to see that brighter area even brighter. It's going to look brighter because it's going to have that really, really dark right up next to that really bright. And the area of greatest contrast in your painting is going to be the most attention grabbing. So like this area right here, where we've got that black right up next to that white, that is really going to draw the eye in. That's what you're going to see first, and then you're going to kind of be led around to the other areas. This area up here, it does have the lighter area, but it's not as impactful because it doesn't have any dark area next to it. So it's a little softer looking. And then you've got this area here is really dramatic because you've got that really dark against that light background. So you can create these kind of contrast things by using your value finder. And what this does is just kind of help you see where your values are in your painting. So if you don't have any areas that are these two in here, then you know you need to add those usually, because probably your painting, most people that are painting will end up with their values in here. They're kind of almost scared to go really, really bright and really, really dark, or they'll end up with like this where they'll kind of do this, you know, and their darkest areas will be like not dark, not nearly dark enough to get that really good contrast and really good depth in their paintings. So their paintings will look kind of flat. So if you take your painting after you're done with it and turn it black, take a picture of it and do that, got a grayscale, you know, most phones will have like a grayscale setting, and look at your painting in grayscale. And if you don't have any areas of really black or really light, then you know you need to go back in and add more highlights and more dark areas. So that can be helpful with that. All right.
Okay, and one more question. Your pen that you signed with.
Oh, yeah. That is the Pebeo acrylic marker. So it's acrylic paint in a marker. And it's the 0.7 nib, so it's small enough to get in here. And
all right.
yeah,
I'm done
it
on my
helps
side.
me from not having to clean out a brush much or add more paint. I was out of the paint that I needed. So anyhow, all right. Well, I like how that turned out. It's really not, I'm noticing, I kind of wish that my sky was a little bit brighter in the, more of that orangey pink tones. I still didn't quite get it quite as pink as I kind of would have liked. So I could, do we want to try it? Let me try it. I kind of feel like I need to. I want it a little bit more gold. So I'm going to get some of that purple, magenta, and my orange, that color I was just using. We'll glaze. This is scary. And really needed to do this before I started my trees because I got all my trees in the way, but I should be able to get it in here. Hopefully, we'll see. I need to do it kind of subtle, so I want that color added, the glaze, so that I can really go really transparent with this. Wipe most of it out. Just like I did with my thing. If you do it transparent enough, it's not going to even tint your trees. You're not going to see it. It's just going to be, well, you'll see it. But see how it's just barely visible. I'm using the very littlest amount of paint. It's almost dry brush. But the glaze is making it more, yeah, that's helping. It needed that, didn't it? It needed it. The glaze is making it fluid. So it's not going on like a dry brush. It's going on more soft and more, but I'm wanting to keep it in the direction that my clouds are going. So I'm kind of, as I'm doing this, I'm always kind of brushing it in that direction of, and I'm going to go ahead and do it all the way up. Just do the whole sky with it. And any streaks will look like part of the clouds. And then I can go back in and adjust or help. I think that that's good though. I'm kind of taking off more than I need to over here. Okay, so then after that step, what you could do, because I've kind of toned everything down now, everything is kind of, it's brighter, it looks really good, but it's a little bit, we lost our highlights. We lost our brightest highlights in our clouds, so I'm just going to grab some more of my yellow, Indian yellow. Try not to get any green because I got a lot of green over there. And my white. Okay. Let me get a little bit of the unbleached titanium too. That'll be like a softer white. A little bit more neutral white. Pop that back in there. So I used a large flat for that. That was the 10 bright. So just kind of large enough that I can kind of do a good amount of area at once. Okay. Very carefully. Do not want to have to do my whole sky again. So I'm just carefully recommend doing that step like I did. I would do it before you start your trees. I kind of knew it wasn't right, but I was hoping it wouldn't make a difference, but it did. So definitely need this step though. You definitely need that bright yellow in here, and some of these are, otherwise it would just look a little too pink all over, no depth. Okay, there we go. Now we're talking. Let's add a little bit of this yellow right up at the top of the water there too. Where it's coming down, it'll catch that light. Okay. I like it. Okay. Mark's like, are we done yet? Well, if I didn't do that, I would have gotten comments saying, why is your sky's not as pink? I liked it better when it... I know I'm going to get comments.
I like that tone.
I always do. That's pretty much how I read it. That's how it is in my head when I read those kind of comments. I liked it better before you. Why is it not? Why didn't you add the... Because I can't hear you. I'm reading. I'm doing the best I can live. It's I don't know what you want until the painting's over and I can read your comments. Not that I don't want to hear from y'all. I do. I want to know, but sometimes the comments can come across a little edgy. That's a word.
Yeah. I think that's good.
A little testy. Not so nice. It's hard to convey your tone though with a comment, so I understand. And I've made comments before when I've read it back on, oh, wait a minute, that didn't sound like I meant it. So I understand. I try not to get offended. If it's really obviously an offensive comment, though, I just delete it and move on. I don't. All right, there we go. So kind of adding back in some of the midtones there. But definitely, I like it. I think it's definitely closer to the color that it needed to be, I think. Okay, I need to stop. All right. Yay. I don't like the yellow in my water there. Probably too late. Not as much water at least. There we go. Got a little bit of it off. Just a slight hint of it. A little hint of it in the water down here. All right, I'm done. For real this time. I mean it. Let's go. Mark's like, oh, daylight's wasting. We'll let him get back into his garden and piddle around. So, and I didn't get these trees as high as I had meant to also. So these trees probably could have been all the way up to there, but you know, it's fine. It is what it is at this point. I'm not going to mess with it anymore, but yeah, hope you guys liked it. Give it a thumbs up, like, subscribe, all that good stuff if you haven't already. And we will be back on Tuesday with another video for you. So thanks for watching with us. And we really appreciate you guys. Take care.